Hey everybody, I'm Polly Dugan and we're streaming on Periscope, broadcasting live to talk about Hachette's promo, #whereiwrite. And I'm going to take you to a couple places in my house where I write, the place where I actually have done most of my writing and where I aspire to write. This is one of my two office mates, my dog Trip. We might see my other friend, our cat Ritz, on our walk. Hope I don't make anyone too... Hey, little brown. Thanks for joining. Hope I don't make anyone too sort of dizzy with my camera work. So, I don't know about anyone else, but this is our dining room table where a lot of things just sort of land, even though they're meant for other places in the house. And hey, Miriam. And this chair right here is where I wrote the majority of my novel Sweetheart Deal, which is going to be available next Tuesday, May 19th. It's funny though, because this isn't even my chair where I sit when we eat at the dining room table. That's my chair. Hi. I should have my glasses on so that I can see everybody sending these great notes. They're upstairs, which is where we're going to go shortly. But my husband Patrick was teasing me that maybe I just ended up doing the majority of my writing here because after dropping off the kids, I didn't have enough energy to go upstairs. And the dining room's closer to the kitchen, fridge, with our snacks and coffee. There's the coffee maker. All right. So where I plan to write is really one of my favorite places in the house. Upstairs, across from the landing. This is a view out into our backyard, and that's the treehouse that my husband built for my sons a couple years ago. And our back fence neighbors, who are creative people, writer and a visual artist, were so excited when Patrick was doing that, and they said, "Oh, it's Patrick building you a studio, a writing studio." And I said, "No, it's a treehouse for my kids, but I might end up doing some writing there." So across the landing, you can see my cozy office and computer, and it's such a lovely space surrounded by family photos and a lot of memorabilia that I've collected over the years, gifts from my mom and her antique books, and one of the bookshelves in the house with beloved, in addition to family photos, books by so many people who have informed and inspired my writing, and also who've been great teachers over the years. There's Ben Percy's book, The Wilding, and John Irving and Paul Auster, and there are some Tin House craft books on here. Been to the Tin House Writers Workshop 3 times. That's where I got my education as a writer. There's Jodi Angel's book, When We Get Letters from Jail, so great. And then more pictures of my kiddos and more books. I'm going to put my glasses on so that I can see everyone's great comments. And this is the desk where I really aspire to write. This is a poster of the cover of my first book that came out last June that my husband presented me with on Pup Day. And I love having it there because it reminds me of what's really possible. It's literally a larger than life reminder of keep your ass in the chair and show up for the work. So one of the reasons I think that I have ended up gravitating towards the dining room table is because I don't write in a very typically structured or linear way. I pulled out some things that I'd saved from the writing process of the Sweetheart Deal. This was just a bound galley I made at the espresso book machine at Powell's for easier purposes of one of the early stages of revision. And you can just see I've got all kinds of notes on there. As things come to me, I often find I have to write them down or I'll lose them. Maybe some of you other writers out there know what I'm talking about. And this was a picture that I took just as I was finishing up finalizing the manuscript. And if you can see, I've got Post-its and notes and like edges of little notebook paper And by the time the final revision, the final version was done or close to it, I had either incorporated all these changes and recycled the pages or just recycled them. Some people are so thorough and so sort of like scientists about putting up butcher paper on their walls. I know that Juliana Baggett was talking a little bit about that the other day during her broadcast. And I just am not, I don't have that much kind of forethought, but this is, you can see a piece of paper where early on I was figuring out the structure, the sweetheart deal, Leo and Garrett and Brian and Christopher, Patrick. That's when one of the sons was named Patrick. His name changed. On the back I have ramps and conflicts and what happens in this story, grief and guilt and sexual development. So anyway, I'm glad that I saved this because so many of these papers are no longer with me. It was really cathartic to incorporate these changes in the book and then be done with them. But I'm glad that I saved this. And then I was looking, some of my research was about accidents on Mount Hood, because that is how my beloved hero, Leo McGarry, dies. No spoilers, it happens in the very beginning of the book. And I had some great help researching that, but I started with some of these articles from the internet. All right, I think that one of the things I'm going to do is read the opening chapter of the Sweetheart Deal in, everyone can see right now, the happy chair. And when my husband and I were shopping to furnish this house, I saw this chair, the happy chair, on a sales floor, and I said to him, this chair just makes me so happy. You guys see why? The resident who spends most of the time in the happy chair is our cat, Ritz, and she's not there right now, so I'm going to sit down. It was also in this chair that I took the phone call from my amazing agent, Wendy Sherman, when she called to tell me about my deal with Little Brown. And it's made this chair even happier. Happy memory, happy chair. Okay, everybody, thanks for still being here. I'm going to read the first chapter of the book, which hopefully will intrigue everyone and want more. And okay, Leo. This is Leo's point of view, and the only chapter that he narrates. I know Garrett never thought I was serious when I told him, if I die, I need you to marry Audrey. Make my wife your bride. She's meant to be a bride, not my widow. And I know she didn't think I was either, but I'd never been more serious about a thing in my life. I was a firefighter. I risked my life every day. Surely I couldn't be the only guy in the department who thought about such a thing. And then after 9/11, I knew asking him had been the right decision, and I felt even better about it. Of course I did. Garrett is my best friend. We met in 1983 when we were 14, and it's as true now as it was then. I had other friends, good friends. I had Gallagher at the firehouse, easily worth 10 men, but Garrett is like a brother to me. It's as simple as that. The three of us had joked about it for years. How many times did Audrey shout to me when Garrett called, Leo, it's my second husband, you going to pick up? Then she'd say to him, bye, sweetie, here he is, and he and I would talk. My love, my everything, the mother of my sons. Of course I wanted a plan in place. Of course she didn't expect me to die. It was all in good fun. I didn't think about them being intimate. I couldn't. I only thought that if Audrey and the boys were left on their own, if I had anything to say about it, Garrett was one person. I'd choose to take care of them. I wouldn't be around to know about any of the rest, which they would figure out. You have these precious, priceless responsibilities in life, the sources of pride you've created, earned, acquired. Your children, money and property and assets, pets even. Treasures that demand you nurture and protect them properly, and in the event that you no longer can, you leave them in the hands of someone who can't possibly replace you. Signing the job of the best care and love only you can give to someone who isn't you, that's the stuff of madness. When Audrey and I finally bit the bullet and wrote up our wills, everyone we considered seemed newly and certainly too flawed, crazy, and unworthy to care for the boys. The list of family and friends we had to choose from got very short very quickly, but we conceded to name her conservative brother and sister-in-law, then my sister and brother-in-law as backup, all of them on the other side of the country. When Christopher was still a baby, we wrote up specific instructions and extracted promises requiring attendance to Catholic school and exposure to open, progressive, political minds. Of course they'd agreed. If they'd ever be forced into the role of guardians, we would never know if they honored our wishes or not. Audrey and I had been married for 6 years when Garrett spent Y2K with us in Portland. It was the first time we'd seen him since our wedding. He'd been my best man. I bought my ticket and I'm flying out, he told me in November. He was in graduate school again, his second stint. It's about time I come to Portland, and if it's all over with the millennium, I'm going out with you two. On New Year's Eve, we got a sitter and had an early dinner downtown in time to be home and drink with the New York countdown. All was relief when the world didn't end. Audrey was pregnant with Andrew and begged off to bed at 10:30, kissing us both. And Garrett and I stayed up. Christopher and Brian were still so little and would be awake early. So as 1999 shed its skin and became 2000, we sat in the backyard smoking cigars by the fire pit, and I got drunk and sentimental. It was a dry, clear, cold night, a rare thing during Portland's December. I was overcome the way people are on such a night with such a friend. Garrett and his women, that's what we'd been talking about. You could set your calendar by them. Anywhere from 18 to 20 months or less, but never for 2 years. He'd be with someone, and then he would end it. After a period of solitude, like a cleansing fast, he'd be on the market again. I could tell the ages of some of his lovers from their names alone. He'd been with an Acacia, 2 Zoes, a Piper. During that visit, he was with a Nicole. And she's a student, I said. She's a graduate student, Garrett said. She's not my graduate student. She's a big girl. Jesus, Leo, I'm not going to let my dick get me arrested or cost me my job. Why don't you find a nice Mavis or an Edith? I said. What about an Opal? What's going on here? His voice got flat. What's with the shitty judgment? I'm telling you about this woman, Nicole, who I'm very happy with, and you're being kind of a prick. I had to tread lighter. The year and a half of what Garrett considered happiness, replaced by another of the same length, but with a different woman, wasn't what he would call a problem. So while we argued about his future with Nicole, I pushed. You know they want to marry you, right? I said. After a few months in, they imagine themselves years down the road with you, living in the brownstone, with a library full of books from floor to ceiling, maybe a basset hound. No, a terrier. You smoking a pipe, wearing your glasses and sweater vest. What the fuck, he said. I would never wear a sweater vest or smoke a pipe. Not now, I giggled. Later, in the happily ever after, maybe even the occasional cardigan. Fuck you, he said. You're tittering, you titterer. I sprayed my drink from my mouth and folded into a hysterical pile until I managed to speak again. Titterer, I said. You're the titterer. We often reduced ourselves to juvenile behavior when we were together. Even then, when we were successful adult men, there's no denying that. I'll be right back, I said, and stumbled inside for paper, a pen, and a flashlight. At the kitchen counter, I scribbled on the sheet of paper. When I got outside, I shoved the paper and pen at him. I need a favor. Sign this. Sign what? Can't sign something in the dark, he said. Man, you're wasted. I flashed the light on the page. This, I said. It says, I, Garrett Reese, in the event of the death of Leo McGeary, promise to marry Audrey McGeary. All you have to do is sign it. What are you talking about? You're off your rocker, he laughed. You're loaded. Just sign it. I shoved the paper at him again. I poked his arm with the pen. I love that woman, and if I die on her, I need you to take care of her, to take care of my family. You're the only person I trust to do that. Garrett took a puff off his cigar. You stupid fuck. He was still laughing. I have a life, and you're not going to die, but if you do, what if I'm married? I love your wife, but not like that. I'm not your plan B, man. I'm my own plan A. Jesus, you call this a favor? I don't sit on my ass for a living, I said. I need some insurance, and I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for your wedding. You want to keep discussing that probability, and you would figure out how to love her like that pretty easily, I'd expect. Let's not talk about it. If you're married when I'm dead, I can't hold you to a promise that you can't keep. There'll only be so much I can do at that point. He took the paper and rested it on his leg in the dark. Move the goddamn light so I can see. He scanned the words I'd scrawled. You're smashed, he said. I'm with Nicole, remember? You're going to have to find someone else to give this to. Oh, for Christ's sake, I said. I'm not going to die tomorrow. Nicole's got nothing to worry about. Will you sign it already? And I'll bring us more drinks. I'm only doing this to get you off my fucking back. It's the new millennium, for God's sake, and your being is morbid as hell. Refill me. He signed the paper and handed it back. It's your word against mine, dead man. That doesn't even look like my signature. Thank you, I said. I took the paper. I really mean it. That's a load off. Hand me your glass, stand up, give me a hug. He did, and our embrace manifested all the years of our friendship. I love you, brother, I said. I'll be right back. Love you too, man, he said. And the chapter ends with Leo Thomas McGarry, 1969 to 2012. I'm going to stop there and thank everyone so much for joining this Periscope broadcast, and look forward to hearing from you on the internet and social media, and look for the Sweetheart Deal available next Tuesday, May 19th. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.